Okay, what's up, guys? Jerem Dastrup, Director of Business Development at Dental Intelligence. I'm super excited to be with you again today, and of course have my good friend and colleague, Dr. Brian Harris, back. We had an awesome conversation last week, really based around visits, new patients into the practice, and kind of the biggest takeaway I had coming out of that, and I know a lot of our viewers did, was attracting the patients that you want, attracting the dentistry that you want to do. And Brad, I really enjoyed that conversation last week, and some of the nuggets that you threw out there. I loved your slides. And dude, just glad that we're back at it again today.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. This is probably, aside from talking about how to attract more of the right types of patients, the whole marketing side of dentistry, this is probably the stuff that I'm most passionate about, because I think it's human interaction, communication. People buy from people. We live in a very different world now than we did many years ago when it comes to this idea of sales. And so when you can understand that, I think that this is where you can really move the needle in your practice. And I'm excited to talk about it for sure.
Cool, man. Cool. Well, for those that this might be your first time joining us, intelligent dentistry is really a concept that about 2.5 years ago, Dental Intel, they wanted an arm of Dental Intel that was education and value out into the marketplace. And when we look at intelligent dentistry, really we define it as best business practices meet clinical standards. And in the middle, you have what is intelligent dentistry. And we find that a lot of times, just not only in dentistry, but in life, that there is an upgrade in the way we do things. There's a more efficient way to do things. There's technology out there that allows us to, I wouldn't say earn time back, but maximize the time we have left. And in intelligent dentistry, that's exactly what we're trying to do, is help our dental professionals be the most effective and most efficient in what they're doing, and helping them get to the point that they're doing what they're passionate about doing and that they don't burn out. And, we've based all of our conversations in intelligent dentistry around the profitability formula. And you guys have probably seen that quite a bit, but I'll just do a quick recap. Really what that is a formula that Dental Intel trademarked a couple years ago that really gives us a snapshot. It gives us a view of all the in and outs of the practice that have to take place. You've got visits coming in, which are going to include new patients and reappointment and reactivation. Then you've got, once they're in, you've got the production that you got to do, and then you've got collections that you got to go after, and then you've got overhead that you've got to minus. And at the end of the day, hopefully there's a positive number and a big profit sign next to it. And so today I'm excited to talk with Brian Harris about really production per visit. Once we get the patients in the practice, what does our case acceptance look like? What is the process that we're walking them through? What is some of the technology that's available to us that helps us become more efficient in increasing that production per visit? So, Brian, I'll turn it over to you, my man. I know we've got a couple slides here that we're going to go through, but I guess really I'll just turn it over to you. You can start us off.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking. I was listening to you while you were talking, but I was thinking too. And I feel like I want to start with kind of a cheesy quote to set the tone for this. But I heard this quote the other day, and it has stuck with me. It's to sell John Brown what John Brown buys. You need to see things through John Brown's eyes. And I actually stopped. It was a book on tape, and I went back and I re-listened to that. Because I think sometimes what happens is we get caught up in statistics, numbers, production, procedures, doing the dentistry we love, how to attract more new patients. But at the end of the day, we live in a world now where people buy from people. We live the way people buy nowadays is a much more of a personalized process than it ever has been in the past. And I think the best way and the fastest way to improve your business and increase the numbers is to come at it with that mindset. So I would say let's both come at it today with that mindset of hey, at the end of the day, if we can just look for ways to serve people at the highest level and give them what they want, we're going to win in the end. And then both sides win. And even there, like if somebody comes and pays me $40,000, right? And I transform their smile and change their life, who wins in that exchange? Like, who really wins?
Yeah.
If you think about it, yeah, the practice wins because that's a big chunk of production of the practice that's going to help support me and my family and my team and everything else. But this patient that just experienced this pivot point in their own life of going throughout life with like no self-confidence and pivoting, and now going throughout life like with this whole newfound level of self-confidence, and now showing up in personal relationships differently, showing up professionally differently. It's like, yeah, they paid you money, but you set them on a whole new trajectory in their life. And so when you think about it that way, now it gets exciting to have these conversations, because these are the people coming in to see you. These are the people who are going to come in to see you on Monday. And so, with that being said, now I went on so far of a tangent. Like now, well,
No, that's so good, man. I love that. I love how you keep things real, one, but two, for those that are just watching, did you just, he prepped all of our minds for a change in the way that we think, right? Like there's, and you've heard me say this before on some of the other videos that we've done. And I know I mentioned this last week, but just because it's old doesn't mean it's wrong or it's bad, right? But the worst thing is to have someone doing the old things and then feeling like they're a failure as they look around and they see their colleagues blossoming, right? And so it's not necessarily us saying like old is bad. We're just saying, hey guys, check it out. There might be some new ways or some different ways to look at things that will increase your production, will increase the treatment that you're doing in your practice, that will increase the care to your patients. And so, and production per visit, man, this is a big one, because we're spending a lot of time and there's a lot of effort to get that person into the chair. And if we're not ready for them being in the chair, then we're not ready to take care of them optimally. We're not ready, right? And at the end of the day, we are running a business, right? There's got to be volume that comes in. And so I'm really excited to see this process you're going to take us through, looking at it through John Brown's eyes, right? Yeah, and really getting down on his level. And what I love about it is it maximizes case acceptance and it maximizes patient care. Yeah. And I've heard you kind of go through this a couple of times, but I'm excited to hear it once again as you go through it today.
Yeah, it's almost like for years we had consultants come in and they would teach us these tactics and strategies of like, okay, how to get people to say yes, and what if they say no, how to like convince them to say yes. And I feel like that is not the most effective way to do things. Mm-hmm. And when you really do see things from the patient's perspective, to me, it's almost easier, because you can be like, okay, I'm going to let all that go and I'm just going to be me. And so we'll end up going back and forth a lot today between like the old way and the new way. There's just a quick slide. This is how I see it and how I want you to envision it, because the old way is this: market, market, market. Yes, new patient comes in. You go and look on the schedule and you're like, let's see, what do they need? Yes, they're interested in cosmetics, or you look on the schedule, it's like just here for a routine 6-month cleaning, and you're like let down, and so it's like, you're at the mercy of the schedule, right? The schedule controls you. The schedule controls your success. And we all know that, because you have a slow month and the first thing you do is you go back and look at the new patients. Oh, it's because new patients are down. And then you're getting upset at the marketing company or marketing coordinator. So you are the business controls your success. Mm-hmm. Okay, what we're talking about now is like, you can actually go and create your success if you understand how the cycle works. So the difference now is how to build yourself up as an expert, how to brand yourself in the right way to show people what you do. It's what we talked about last week. Now that they know what you do, you're going to start attracting more of the right types of patients. based on what you do. That doesn't have to be cosmetics. It could be implants. It could be surgery, whatever. Now that you've attracted them and you've connected with them, like we talked about using the virtual consults and using video, now they're in your chair. So now the thing here though is if you can now get them to move forward with the treatment that they want, then you step up and do the work and do a good job. And you understand that it is a cycle. And so you understand how to get them to then post and talk about that on social media. It attracts more new patients. You get to connect with more people. You get to go in and convert them. You do the work. And it's this like cycle that keeps on giving. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it changes the way you look at, the production per visit. Does that make sense, Jaron? Because now it's not just like, how do I think the old school mentality of production per visit is, how do I do more quadrant dentistry? Or how do I talk people into doing more dentistry in one visit? And it's like this convincing thing to do more in one visit, where this is more of like get the right type of people in the chair, build the trust, give them what they want, do the work, and it's going to give you more of the right type of people.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. In fact, for those that may have missed the episode from last week with Brian, we talked a lot about the attracting and the connecting, the importance of that. And I'm just going to throw a challenge out there. As a practicing dental professional, if you don't know what you want or what kind of patient you want to be seeing, really take some time and identify that. And it's okay that you don't know. In fact, I commend you for watching this episode and us being a part of that process you get to go through. And that is just take the time and say, if I could write down the ideal patient that I would want to see every day for the rest of my life, what does that look like? What is the dentistry that I want to do every day for the rest of my life? Not until I retire, because that's assuming that maybe you're going to get burned out. And when you're passionate about something and you're balanced, you don't get burned out. You just get to continue to fulfill and bless lives as you're doing dentistry. And so, and then the connection part, we talked a little bit about, with an upgrade in technology, there has to come an upgrade in our thinking. And Dr. Brian Harris did an awesome job articulating and showing the power of what we would call virtual consults, not teledentistry. It's not a live phone call, but just the ability to really get in front of your patients before they even get to the practice to make sure they trust you, you know who they are, they know who you are, and that there's no hidden fees or processes, right? But it really gives you an opportunity to screen that. Now we're talking about converting. Now they're in the chair, and Brian, I'm just going to throw an example out here for you. So I'm in your chair, and I've gone through this Smile virtual consult with you, and I've got a couple implants that I need done. And it's going to be a couple $1,000. You're probably seeing me to do 2, and you get in there and you find out I need 6, right? And I mean, kind of walk me through that process. What does that look like as you're taking me through, knowing that my expectation is most likely 2 crowns. Now you're seeing it to be 6, and you want to make sure that I get taken care of.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. So let's look at that through John Brown's eyes, okay, for a minute. Because John Brown knows he needs those implants done. He knows, just like you said, the teeth need to be replaced. What is he thinking right now? What is he thinking? He's thinking like, I don't even know how much that costs. Like, is this like 2,000 or is it like 8,000? Yeah. And we think people just know fees, but people have no idea what our fees cost. And you know that because you tell people like what 10 veneers cost, and they're like, my favorite is when I tell my plastic surgeon patients how much our fees are, and they're like, wait, what? Like, my most expensive procedure is like 1/3 of the cost of yours. So you have to understand that if you look at it through the patient's eyes, they're coming to the table with no real understanding of what things cost in most cases. Okay, then they do. Now they're seeing you for the first time. If you're doing it the old way, they're seeing you for the first time. They don't know if they're going to have a relationship with you, in the back of their mind, they're like, what's this going to cost? You lean them back and you start doing the typical, all right, DO on number 3, MO on number 4. In their mind, they're like, cha-ching. They're just, okay, now there's all this list. I came for these implants, but now they're talking about all this other stuff. They go through that whole thing, and then we give them the Dentrix printout with the fees on there, all itemized and the big number. And if you're in that position as a patient, it's not uncommon for people to say like, okay, this is great. Wait, let me talk to my spouse, or let me talk, where in their mind, they're like, holy cow, I had no idea. And it's maybe not that they don't have the money. It's just that they're blindsided by the cost.
Yeah.
This happened to me just the other day. I wanted to add an office in my house because I'm working from home more, and I need for things like this to have meetings. I'm at my office, but it's like I had to drive 40 minutes to get here. So I'm trying to add an office in my house. No joke. I'm thinking it's going to cost like, it's drywall and a door, and I'm thinking it's going to be like $5,000. Okay. And at the most, I'm like $8,000. Fine. If I got to pay $8,000, I'll do that. And they give me the quote back. Do you know what it costs? $22,000. $22,000. And so part of me is like, $22,000. Like, I could go rent like a sweet office space for 4 years in like an amazing office for $22,000. So and I just laughed when it happened, because I'm like, this is what our patients go through every day. I had no idea. I can kind of guess what it would cost. So anyway, you have to understand that first, that's what they're coming into the conversation like the old way.
Yeah.
So not to go back and rehash next week, but if you could get in front of them before they come in and see you, if somebody was able to get in front of me and say, hey, Brian, listen, there's some things you may not understand about the process. It's not just as simple as putting up drywall down and door. We've got electrical. We've got to reinforce that drywall. We've got to do different things. We got to paint it. We got to make sure that the baseboard, we got to, you got wood flooring there. So if they were able to explain all that and just say, hey, it may or may not make sense to build out this room, but some things you may want to consider are, increased value in the house when you sell it. It is an extra room. Something you may want to consider is, the cost you're saving by not having another office. So, simple things like that, not to sell me, but just to talk me through it. And then they could say at the end, listen, the cost is going to be $22,000. Yeah. There's a couple different ways to do that. If you want to keep it really simple, we could probably get away with doing it for $14,000, but so my point is, if they were to walk me through that and I had time to sit and process it and talk to my wife and because what my wife said, what she told me? She's like, what would you pay, Brian, to have more time at home? She's like, you're talking 2 hours a day. You drive an hour there and an hour back, every Thursday and Friday. Like, you could be doing that type of stuff from home. So what is it worth to you for the next 10 years to save yourself 2 hours a day every Thursday and Friday, and to be closer to home, and and so when I started thinking about it that way, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. Now, I'm not going to pay $22,000 for it, but I talked them down to something I felt comfortable paying. So the thing is, if you could have your patients show up to your office already knowing who you are and seeing you and trusting you and already having an idea of what it's going to cost, now they come, even if they can't afford it, because you were so transparent with them, now they come ready to talk. Just the mere fact that they showed up means they want to do business with you. Now you just got to figure out what that looks like.
So talk a little bit about, and I heard it a little bit in your example, which I love, and that is really, as a dentist, I would imagine, I'm going to project here a little bit. I would imagine that that it can be uncomfortable when you get to a certain point in the treatment presentation of like rubber meets the road, kind of like you've got to go under this mindset of, I can't assume they can or can't afford it, because that puts me down a weird path. I have to look at it as, this is absolutely what the patient needs. I just need to find, how painful is this need, right? Is it going to be a financial pain? Is it going to be the physical pain? And how can I relieve that? Which really, it comes down to how the value proposition and how we really frame up that value proposition to the patient. And you you did, I don't know if you realized you did this, but when you were talking about your office, one of those shifts was, well, it's going to increase the value of my home.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the value proposition, right? Like that. Okay, so long term, that's going to increase the value of my home. I mean, talk to us a little bit about that. What does that look like through your eyes as you're trying to build that value, so it is a little softer and easier to understand for the patient to make that decision?
Yeah, Jeremy, you have to understand that to answer that question, you have to understand that we have been programmed as dentists. Like, it's super uncomfortable for us to talk about money,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's just not what we do. We're operators. We get in, we do the work. And so every time, not every time, but I would say 80% of the time we have a consult with somebody and we recommend something, the question they ask us right there to our face is, so how much is it going to cost? Okay, so if that's you asking the question, and I say, that's a great question, you know what? I'm going to leave the room now, and Christina, this woman that you've never met before, she's going to go over it all with you and slide papers in front of you. So it's you compare that way, which we all do, compared to like, hey, listen, I'm just going to be totally transparent with you. You know, for something like this, you know, to get all 10 teeth done, for exam, x-rays, records, retainers, like the whole entire process, it's going to be $18,000. And there's various different ways to pay for that. And, you know, that price could change based on whether or not you have insurance. But what I want to do right now is I want my team to start looking into it for you, and let's see like what we can do to that fee. Let's try to get you the best possible result, but let's make it happen at a price that you can afford. See how that feels so different?
Much.
You know, the person that holds the most trust in that relationship, the whole relationship, is you and the patient. Why? Because you're the doctor. They're coming to see you. Yet we so often dodge that bullet and put it on someone else. Now, what I will tell you, it's a heck of a lot easier saying that to a computer screen than it is to a human. That's why I'm such a fan of video consults. It's much easier saying, hey, that's going to be $18,000, because you can look right into the screen, but there's no human attached to it. And then if you mess up and you're like, oh, that didn't sound powerful, then just delete it and like re-record again. Right. But it's just the fee is the fee. And so if you see it differently and see that this way of presenting it's not very powerful, it gives you no opportunity to answer questions or respond to objections or anything else, or you can do it this way, it's different. It's a different feeling.
So, I mean, talk to us a little bit about this whole case acceptance process that you go through. I know production per visit is a big metric that you monitor in your practice, in your office. You're constantly focused on it, and focused in a good, positive way, right? Like you're a very efficient doctor, and I'd love our viewers to kind of hear your methodology behind that.
Okay. Yeah. So the secret is to see fewer new patients. That's the secret. If you want to produce more, you need to see fewer new patients. And what I mean by that is it's fewer new patients doing the right type of dentistry that are pre-screened. Does that make sense? So it's not just a matter of like, I want to do more production per visit. I need to see 40 new patients a month instead of 20. No, what I'd rather you do is see 10 that are all like the right type of patients that are wanting to do, you know, the type of dentistry that you love to do. Because then what happens is, you see what happens? Like now it's fewer people doing more elective dentistry. And so now it's just a matter of how to attract more of those right type of people. And so that's kind of like the first part of it is how to get the quality of leads up. The second part of it is what I call the old way, the new way of treatment planning. The old way is leaning the patient back, giving a laundry list of items, giving them a treatment presentation or a treatment plan form of here's all what you need to do, and then just leaving. You know, I call it like telling and selling. It's tactics, strategies, like trying to convince people that they need to do this. And so doctors, you have to understand when you want the sale more than they do, that's when you've lost. You know, that's in business, like that's when you lose control of the sales process. The goal is to always, like, they should want it more than you do. You know, don't ever go into those situations like trying to sell somebody. Instead, just change your approach. So the new way, I start all my new patient exams this way. I just scroll right in front of the patient, I scoot right in front of the patient, and I just tell them the first thing out of my mouth is, hey, my goal today, like, we do things differently here. And that's a powerful phrase that I suggest that every doctor starts using. It's just, hey, we do things differently here. And my goal by the time you leave is, I want to find out like what it is truly that you want, and we're going to find a way to make it happen and give it to you. Yeah, but that only happens if there's really good communication. So I'm gonna lean you back in a minute. We're gonna look at all the T's. We're gonna talk about options. But then after that, like, I want to give you permission to just tell me, out of all that stuff that you heard, like, what do you truly want to do? And then I'll make it happen. So see how that shifts now? Now it's less a conversation of you selling them something and more a conversation of, hey, I'm just here to help you. Tell me what you want. I'll make it happen. So now you don't want the sales so bad. And then there's some funny thing that happens when you give them the permission to tell you what they want. Like, now they're in control of the decision instead of being told what to do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. So now I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here for a second.
For sure.
So we've got, and I love this. You said, stop, what was it? Stop selling.
Telling and selling.
Telling and selling, and start
asking and serving is what I say. Just like, hey, what do you want? And then just like, give it to them.
That's it. So now here's a situation where I'm in the chair, I'm your patient, you've gone through your whole process, and you feel that you as a dentist, you start to lose control of the process. Meaning, like, maybe my emotions are getting escalated because, you know, I've got stuff at home that's going on that you don't know about, that it's surfacing while I'm in the chair. I can't afford this. How am I going to tell my wife this? What is the way you take control back of the conversation? And I mean that in a very loving way, right? Like, when you take control back, it's to ensure that you get through this little journey with the patient and everything's going to be okay. They're going to feel good about the experience, and treatment's going to get scheduled, right?
Yeah, I love it. So first thing you have to do is ask yourself the question, do you believe that what you're recommending for the patient truly will help them? You know, is it going to make them healthier? Is it going to give them a level of confidence they've never experienced before and really transform them? Whatever it may be, whatever you're providing, do you feel like it really is a service to them? Do they need it? Okay. Because if they do, then the second you feel like you're starting to lose control of that, like, so if you and I were in a conversation and I felt like, oh, geez, you don't think you need anything, but I look in there and I see that you really need 5 crowns. The second that I start to feel like, how am I going to tell him this and do it in an efficient way without it looking like I'm trying to sell him? That's when I don't give them anything that day, or I don't give them anything in that visit. I sit them up and say, hey, listen, like, we've just looked over everything. You know, there's some really good things happening. Like, I applaud you for how you're taking care of things. There's a couple areas that I'm a little concerned about, but I want to grab some photos. I want to sit and like take some time to think about a couple different options for you. Like, we do things differently here. Instead of just giving you a bunch of like pieces of paper with an itemized list of everything you need. Later on tonight, when I'm done with patients, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to record a video for you. It's going to go over all your options. It's going to give you, some financing options that'll tell you exactly what I recommend. And then you can decide what makes the most sense for you. So the second you start to lose control, start to control the sales process. Know that here you have no control because you don't know how they're going to react. You don't know what's going on. Over here in a video consult, you have full control. Why? Because you get to plan exactly what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, how you're going to say it. And if you mess up, you can re-record it and send it again. That's how I control the process. If it's flowing and I feel good about it, then I'll just continue and tell them what they need. But if I start to feel like, man, this is going to be way more effective if I can do this, it's the same time. Instead of you your treatment coordinator going away, presenting everything, getting it together, it still takes 15 or 20 minutes. Just do it over here virtually instead of making the patient wait.
I love I love this, man. I've got so many questions that are racing through my head. So I'm probably bouncing around. I'm gonna go to a phrase I've heard you mention a couple times, and that is, a lot of dentists will go 2 feet deep and a mile wide in their practice. So in their treatments that they're offering, in the procedures that they're offering, it's kind of like once we get people in, then we want to make sure that we're like the Chuckarama buffet. We've got everything, right? Where I love your, and I'm going to call it sniper approach, meaning that you've obviously taken the time to identify the ideal patient that you want coming into your practice. And you're out there hunting for those, right? Like that's what, it's not just a net you're going to throw out there and pull anybody and everybody in, but rather this is the type I want to come in. And you use the phrase, I go 2 feet wide and a mile deep, meaning I am the absolute best or the expert. This is what my office does the very best, which is going to increase production per visit. Because when they come in, they're
attract more of those type of people.
Yes. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's it's like going fishing and you're trying to fish for bass, but you're using like catfish bait. What I mean by that is you're running Groupon ads, and then you're just like pissed because all these new patients, like, they never move forward with treatment. They just want free stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's what you marketed to, is those kind of people, right?
Yeah.
And so if you want to catch bass, you got to use a bass lure. You got to market to them in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But then once they're there in your practice, no, actually step back. You talk about going, 2 feet wide and a mile deep. What that really means is, back to the house building analogy. If you're going to build a custom home, do you want somebody to build your home that does some specs, has done some customs, does some side work for this other company, that does some, apartments, that does some, or do you want to find like the one person who's known for doing like building amazing homes and amazing custom homes in a certain style that you like? Or if you're going to go like me, if I'm going to go get a nose job, right? I'm like, I've always felt my nose is a little big. Do I want to just go to a plastic surgeon that's like, hey, I'm really good at facelifts, I'm good at noses, I'm good at breast augmentation, I'm good at tummy tucks, but I do injections, or do I want to go like to the nose guy? I want to go to the nose guy. Yeah. And so what happens is the nose guy just does noses all day long. That's all he does. So he becomes really good at that. And it's the same thing with dentists. Sometimes we feel like this marketing ourselves as the super GP is like good because people are like, oh no, he can do everything. And it's true to a degree. I do think it's good to keep as much in-house as you can. And you guys know that. You see the statistics in dental intel. Sometimes the more procedures you offer, the more production that's possible. But I think there's a lot of power in just being really good at one thing and really going deep on that, because that's how you attract more of those type of people. And I see it all over. Guys that are really good at implants, so they just do implants. Guys that are really good and girls that are really good at ortho or sedation. I just think there's something to that. It's scary because it's like, well, how am I gonna, if I only do that, I don't know. There's other thoughts around that can scare some people of why they wouldn't want to do that. But I think like that's the secret. The true secret to success is that what you just talked about.
So what you mentioned, and I like this, we do things different around here, yep. Right? Like this phrase, like that's very intriguing to me. It's kind of like, oh yeah, like what? Like what do you do different around here, right? So I know that you have a couple different powerful phrases. If you wouldn't mind, share with us what those are and kind of the circumstances you use those in, like. Yeah. Last time you used that phrase and kind of what was going on, so we can live through that.
Yeah, I love that we do things differently because it's right. It's like what you said. It makes people stop and be like, oh, I wonder what that is. And you can really accentuate that too and say, hey, I'm going to warn you a little bit. Our process is very different here than any other dental office you're going to walk in. And here's why. Instead of us just like telling you what you need, we're going to figure out what it is that you want, and we're just going to make it happen. So that's one of them. It's the we do these things differently, and here's why. The other one is, hey, we do things very differently here. Our fee, it's an all-inclusive fee. That sounds interesting, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, so instead of, if you're going to move forward with this implant, instead of charging you for the implant and the abutment and the bone graft and the membrane and the post-op appointment, sometimes it can be really difficult as a patient to know like what you're paying for. We just do things differently. It's an all-inclusive fee. So once you decide to move forward with treatment, we will make sure that we do everything possible to give you the best possible implant. And if it means that we have to add some extra things in there, then we'll do that, but it's not going to change your fee. So already the patient, it's like, okay, if they do go somewhere else for a second opinion, what are they going to get? They're going to get the list of all these things. And they're going to have in their mind, well, what if something else comes up? It's going to be an additional fee. So another one that I use a lot is when I'm talking about money, I'll just say, hey, the goal is at the end of the day, I want to give you the best possible result, but at a price that you can afford. And a lot of times I'll use my hands. I know it's cheesy, but I'll just say like, I want to give you the best possible result, but do it at a price that you can afford. And there's imagery there, right?
Yeah.
Just the two hands, like what does that show? You're going to get a ton of value at a price that works for you, right? Yeah. But it's also saying like, hey, and sometimes like we got to find a way to meet in the middle, because what you can afford isn't necessarily going to give you the best, but there's always a way. So it's those kind of phrases that make people, what they do is they break down barriers. They break down these barriers of trust, of like, can I afford this? Of, and it just helps people realize like, okay, you're there to work with them. I got a few others. You want to talk about those first?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Because I got to think of the others. That's why I asked you. Oh yeah. Do you want me to talk about other phrases?
Yeah.
Okay, think of another one. So let's see. One I'll use a lot with my assistants when they're getting ready to like finalize treatment plans. I'll just say, hey, Christina's my assistant, but she's just not just an assistant. Like, she's amazing. Her main job is to help you find a way to make this happen. And it's not like Christina has all this freedom to go and like discount fees or do all, but I do give her some wiggle room of like, hey, if you need to discount a case and it's one that that we want to do, you have freedom to go up to 10%, but just use that sparingly. But I'll just say like, her job is to figure out a way to make this happen. So if questions come up, ask. If you get home and you have concerns, like reach out, ask. Like, we're an open book here. Let us know what you want. I'll do one other. The other one, going back to what we talked about before, never want the sale more than they do. I always say, especially in virtual consults, I always say, hey, by the time you're done watching this video, I want to make sure that you know exactly what the process is, what it's going to cost, what your options are. But I mostly want you to know that so you can decide if I'm a good fit for you. You can decide if you want to work with me. And if you do, I'd love to work with you. So what happens is, who's making the decision now? Now it's all up to them. Like, I'm letting them know, like, I fully understand. I can't do what I do without you. So the decision's in your hands if you would want to work with me. And if you do, I'd love to work with you. So just little things like that, that I've seen work really well over the years.
Cool, man. I love it. I hope you guys are taking notes. This is good stuff. You're going to, if not, go back and rewatch that, write those down. All right. So in closing, I know you got a quote you like to share, and I'm going to maybe posture it, position it like this. Do you want to compete on price or value? There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we talked about this before we hopped on this call. Jeremy asked me like, "Hey, what are some things you want to touch on?" And I told him I really wanted to talk about this because I think this is this is everything. I said before, we live in a world now where people buy from people. Before, it used to be Harris Dental selling crowns and people would come and buy from us. But think about it. Now you have people driving you to the airport in their own car, picking you up at your own house, and like you're having conversations with them. Like you have people delivering food to your door that's just somebody else because you were too lazy. They're going and getting your food and bringing it to you. Like it's all these personal exchanges happening. And so people aren't necessarily buying from Harris Dental anymore. They're buying from Dr. Brian Harris. And so the idea is to provide as much value as possible. So the way I provide value, I give people access to me. I allow them to request virtual consults, and I record consults for free. I give people my time. It's valuable. It's the most valuable thing I have. And I let them know that in the video. But I also tell them like, hey, I wanted to give you 10 minutes of my time because I want you to know what's possible so you can decide when you're ready to move forward. And when you are, then reach out and we're here to help you. So I give them my time. I give them transparency, which is what they want. And I help answer their questions, and I do it for free. But it's just 10 minutes. Okay. Why? I'd much rather give them 10 minutes up front without having to talk face to face, because I do it all in a video recorded. So it's kind of selfish, right? I'm serving them at the highest level. I'm giving them everything they want, but I'm also doing it on my terms, where it's just 10 minutes and I get to control that process. But it really is something that helps them, because if they're not ready or if they can't afford you, that's great. But it's also one more person out there that you've been able to get in front of that's able to see who you are, that you've been able to impact. So that's one way I provide value. The other way is just once they're in the chair, once they're in the office, we provide a 5-year warranty. We provide different things in the process. Like I always provide, a free night guard with every smile design case I do. I have all these things built in where it's just value, value, value. And because of that, my fees are very high. I can charge $2,000 per tooth and people will pay it all day long, where somebody down the street may only charge $1,200 a tooth. But the difference is it's not the same procedure, right? Because over here it's the traditional dental office. You go in, it's the traditional ways. It's a crown, it's a commodity. Where over here, it's not just a crown. It's access to the doctor, it's relationship, it's warranty, it's value. It's these perceived things built in that make people willing to spend $800 more per tooth because there is more value. Jeremy, one of the things you talked to me about a few months ago was, Brian, you got to raise your fees. And it wasn't necessarily my crown or my veneer fees. It was all these other little fees that I didn't know were low. I don't know if I told you, but that alone, like just making that decision, you told me it was a Friday. We made it on Monday. That alone is accounted for like a significant amount of production that we would have never seen before, just by that one report. Docs, if you haven't gotten that report yet, massive. So, I mean, that's my point though. It's when you provide value, not only can you charge more, but more people will buy from you. So you can just continue to discount your fees. $59 exam x-rays and cleaning, $29 exam, $10. But just remember, like you're fishing for bass using catfish bait. And so you're going to attract a bunch of people that aren't going to want to move forward. A mindset shift is, hey, why don't you give away a free Sonicare toothbrush for every new patient that comes in and pays full fee? Right? You give up, $40 in an awesome toothbrush, but what you get is somebody coming to pay $350 to see you, paying full fee, and you gave up 40. But now you get the right kind of people in your practice. So it's a mindset shift. Look for ways to fish for bass with the bass lure. Look for ways to attract the right types of patients, but don't devalue your work. It's the worst thing you can do.
Awesome, man. Gosh, good stuff. We could just keep going for hours here. Anything you want to close up with as we come to an end?
Yeah, I'll close with this. First off, thank you to you guys for allowing me to be more profitable in my business, for allowing me to have my eyes open to all the stuff that I can't see because I just don't know. I appreciate that. And that's why, when you asked me to do this, I jumped at the opportunity because I feel like I owe you guys a lot for that. The thing that I would leave in closing, though, for all the docs or team members listening is, we live in a time today, in my opinion, where there's so much opportunity for growth in the business. And you can have a mindset of scarcity, of like all that's happening in the world and all that can go wrong, and why your practice can slow down. Or you can also recognize that there's millions of people out there right now that don't have a dentist, that don't know who to trust, that would just love to connect with somebody. Confused consumers do nothing. They're confused. They don't know where to go, so they do nothing. But if you let them see you, if you get in front of them, if you can build that relationship with them, not only do you win them as a patient, but I mean, those are lifelong relationships that those patients will stay with you, because the relationship is built 100% on trust and transparency, and you serving them at the highest level, even if it's only 10 minutes of your time. You know, it's a different way to look at dentistry, and it takes time. It takes effort. You know, it takes a different mindset, but it's a pretty amazing way to practice.
Cool, man. Well, gosh, thank you on behalf of Dental Intel and, of course, all of our viewers and our audience. We appreciate, once again, the value that you've added to this community and continue to add to the dental community as a whole. So, hey, guys, that's it. That wraps it up with Dr. Brian Harris today. And once again, thanks for taking the time to watch this. Please like it, share it, comment. We'd really like to just push this content out and get this good stuff in front of as many people as possible. So, hey guys, have a great weekend. And Dr. Brian Harris, thank you once again for joining us on the Intelligent Dentistry Facebook group.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll see you guys.